Let's see if I can actually produce one of these this week. Last week I think I recorded one of these every single day, but I actually didn't keep any of them. Because I didn't really care for any of the topics. But today I seem to be a fountain of topics. I've preloaded a whole bunch of different posts for use during the week. There's two things I want to talk about in this particular podcast video. The first is I had been wondering about strategy. You know, what was a good posting strategy for the blog? Usually I try and do a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday schedule at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. This usually works. I can, pre-write the post, and it gives me a little bit of time. Admittedly at work, but only for a little bit. Before everybody else rolls in, I get there early enough before the emails start going that I can just kind of give it a once-over and correct anything that I feel might not be clear or anything that I notice, and still have it out, in time for 10 a.m. And there have been studies out there about when people actually read blogs. And I did do a poll a little bit ago on the site, asking people when they read blogs, and a lot of people said that exactly as I had suspected, where people either have a blog in their RSS feed for people who still use RSS, or they they'll visit the post as it's advertised on social media. I think it may be few and far between who actually go out of their way to remember posting schedules. And I don't, maybe a lot of people don't stick to schedules these days when they post. I know that there's a couple of people who are, who post like clockwork, right? You know exactly when they're going to post, and you can essentially sit on their blog and wait for it. But part of that is trying to figure out when it's most worthwhile to get the readers. And I've said it before, is that nobody goes into blogging because they just want to sit there and keep a journal, because that's something you can do offline. Bloggers really want to have people on their site. They want to do what they can to get people to come and read. And of course, the above board bloggers aren't going to resort to link bait to bring people in. They're going to, want to post topics that are of interest to the community that they wish to attract. Whether it's about a specific game, a specific genre, or whether you're kind of a general purpose kind of person. You're going to want to be known as somebody who provides quality content. We leave link baiting to, the professional blogs. So I was looking actually at the my stats the other day, because that is something that bloggers do. Not all bloggers are ruled by the stats, which I think is the right way to go about doing it, but looking at them and being concerned about them and taking steps to increase them that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. And I noticed there were certain days when there's a dog fighting with a tire. There were certain days when my numbers were much, much larger than other days. And I went back and I looked at why. Well, it turns out a little while ago I was trying to figure out what the best way to post was. So in addition to time, I was concerned about how many posts to make, right? A lot of people will post once in a blue moon, when the spirit moves them. Other people post one post a day at very specific times, or, every other day, or what have you. And sometimes I get thoughts that I'm like, oh man, I gotta write this down. But I've already posted for the day, or it's a Tuesday or Thursday. And sometimes they're topical. They need to be out, now, in order to follow along with the wave of interest, that people might be searching for. So what I came up with was the idea that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. would be the featured post. That would be the scheduled post. Anything else, I would post whenever. Probably around 2 p.m. if it's on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but maybe any other time during the day. And that could amount to, an extra post, an extra bonus post, maybe 2 bonus posts a day if I really feel that I need to get out. So these days where I saw that there were massive spikes in readership, I noticed that those are the days that I actually posted more than once, which on paper, if you just look at the numbers, looked pretty good. I mean, for me, for someone who hasn't been back in operation, for that long, I mean, I was getting 50 people who were reading the posts, and I'm like, oh, well, for me, that's pretty good. For other people, it is significantly low. But, then I realized, well, wait a minute. I'm like, if we were to be equitable, then the normal scheduled 10 a.m. post garnered 25 views, and then people returned in the afternoon after I advertised the second post for another 25 views. So, these weren't unique per day. These were just simply counting the hits. So, that's a little bit of interesting reason why you should pay attention to your stats. Don't just ditch them because you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart. Look at it. It can give you some valuable insight. So there's that. So, for the post that I want to go along with this, I want to talk about, do armchair developers and designers matter? Okay. Now, of course, by armchair designers and developers, I basically mean consumers who discuss the finer points of game design and development. Or, as some people like to call it, people who talk with their head up their ass because they really don't have any idea what it's like to work on a game, either in design or development. A long time ago, I saw some people who were talking about this particular subject, and they naively said that, if you've never produced a game, you have no right to talk about it in terms of, design and development. And I think that is absolute, utter 100% bullshit, for one thing, because people do that all kinds of, across the spectrum. People critique movies and books and music without having produced any of those things. But of course, all of these, the people who are saying this that you don't have a right to critique unless you've produced, of course, worked inside the games industry. So, I understand where they're coming from, right? Because what armchair designers and developers, I'm just going to call them armchairists from now on, what armchairists talk about is something that they've got no real experience in, which is true, but they that doesn't stop them from talking about it like they know what's going on. And I suppose, that is really, it's by nature is going to be talking about things, making a massive number of assumptions. So many, in fact, that the point that they're trying to make and the facts that they're using to support their point of view could be spot on, but if they are, it's entirely by accident. And more often than not, they're probably way off in left field so as not even to be recognizable as how the games industry actually operates. The double whammy being, people who are talking about this stuff if they've never developed anything at all software-wise. And I mean, everybody has always had, has had daydreams about, writing these little fantasy stories in their head. So there's a little bit of design, knowledge inherent, I think, in all human beings. But, when the rubber meets the road, a lot of the armchairists don't know what they're talking about. And this is never more evidence than when people say, well, can't you just tweak the doodad and make the change? And anybody who's, of course, worked in software development or, hell, any kind of industry really knows that you can't just tweak a doodad and get the results you want. Okay? Still, I think that developers and designers who ignore armchairists do so at their own peril for a couple of reasons. And I'm not saying this just because I'm on the armchairist side and I want to be taken serious, but I think that, there's actual value here. First off, that you know that these people are really invested, right? Nobody's going to argue a point that they don't care about. Okay, so nobody really wants to talk about it. Speculation is a time-honored tradition, probably down at the cellular level. Okay? If we didn't speculate, then we never would have mythology. If we didn't speculate, we wouldn't have science. Okay? When you're in a company and you're working on a product, probably, and I don't know exactly, of course, the parameters here, but we're talking about a handful of people who are coming up with a decision to make a product, and they all get together, this handful of people, and they hash out, the specifics of the design, and then you've got only so many hands working on development. And that's great, but when you put it out there, what you're doing is you're producing a product that's intended to appeal to as broad of an audience as you can possibly muster. Therefore, you have to create, enough features in this that are going to appeal to a large group of people, much larger than you could possibly represent, in an internal focus group that's working on a design document. So, when your consumer base tells you what they like and what they don't like, that's kind of an important thing to take into consideration, because they're basically telling you that I like this or I don't like that. Whereas if you go and you buy a refrigerator, or if you manufacture refrigerators, the only real way you have to find out whether people like the decisions that you've made in the design of this particular model is by extrapolating that from how many of the units have sold over a period of time. If you haven't sold a lot, well, then people hate it. If you sold a whole lot, then it's you gotta be on target, right? Getting into immediate feedback in the internet era is one of the biggest boons, I think, to any kind of development. But then again, from the in the pitfalls section, of course, is that you have all these people who say, I've supported you for so long, given you so much money, you owe me, which is of course bullshit, because we all know how fickle people are. They will support you so long as you don't piss them off, and as soon as you piss them off, they will bury you in their individual psyches and not give you a second chance. I mean, we've seen tons of people who have purchased products from a particular developer only to find out that they didn't like the font in their latest offering, and then, oh my god, this is a travesty, I'm never buying another one of their games again, etc., etc. Another aspect, of course, is financial warfare. These people find something that they don't like, and then they try and start a mini crusade on a forum or on social media, telling people that this is a slap in the face, and vote with your wallet, and all other calls to arms, which more or less fall on deaf ears. But every now and then they can all get on the same page and force designers and developers to reconsider. I mean, look at SimCity. EA Max has told us, no, we can't do it offline, And what did they do? They issued a patch and made it work offline. So, don't lie to your customers. If they had simply said, this is the way we want to do it, and we want you to consider it, before you dismiss it out of hand. But also, listen to your consumers, I guess. When they say that they really don't want something, then, consider it. But, so, you got good and you got bad. Entitlement is another bad thing. And it's, again, like I said, it's not just a younger generation that everybody says is so spoiled and so entitled, because on the internet, everyone is wrong. Who isn't you? So all of these, elder gamers who are saying, these kids are so entitled, spoiled, and all this shit. Those are the people that have, been, sticking with a company for so long, and they're the ones who are most likely to issue those edicts that, I've been with you for so long, you owe me, and things like that. I mean, look at recently, Konami, good old Konami, announced that they were essentially going to just ditch everything and focus on mobile. I saw a shitload of people who essentially bitched and moaned about that. And, in the end, I don't think those people have a fucking right, because this is what Konami wants to do for its business, okay? The fact that you like products that Konami made in the past, okay, great. You've allowed them to make this decision. But, it's what they feel is best for them. It's what they want to do. And they don't owe you jack squat. So, I don't think any outrage is going to make them change their mind. But in the end, I think that the truth is really somewhere in between, is that developers can't crowdsource, because they can't possibly please all the people all the time. But, they should also listen to what armchair developers and designers have to say, because even if they're not accurate in, what they say or their assumptions, I think that, the core of what they're trying to get at, I think has value from a customer service perspective. And, if you can appeal to a broad number of people, you're probably going to have, a better selling product for it.